Professor Namyong Lee's long op-ed, Rice Market Liberalization, How Do We Protect Both Farmers and the People? Hello, this is Namyong Lee from Lee Namyong Professor TV. The debate over opening the rice market now appears to be an extreme confrontation between two groups, farmers and consumers. Rice consumers are, in fact, the general public. From their point of view, they naturally want to eat better quality rice at a lower price. Many say, just 2 years ago I could buy a 20-kilogram bag of rice for 40,000 won, but now it's gone up to 80,000 won, and California rice from the United States has better quality and even tastes better than domestic rice. So why must we ordinary people be forced to eat such expensive Korean rice? On one side, farmers cry out, if the rice price collapses, farmers will die, while on the other side, people lament, life is already hard enough. Why does rice have to be this expensive as well? If this confrontation is left as it is, we may end up with the worst outcome in which neither farmers nor consumers are satisfied. The greatest danger is to look only at rice itself and fail to see all the interwoven relationships around it. Let us first look at reality through a few simple numbers. According to recent international statistics, total global agricultural production amounts to roughly 10 billion tons per year, and rice accounts for about 550 million tons and is still increasing. A small number of countries, India, Thailand, Vietnam, Pakistan, the United States and a few others, control 80 to 90% of the world's rice exports, and in some years India alone has accounted for around 40% of global exports. Korea, by contrast, has an overall grain self-sufficiency rate of only around 20%, which means an extremely high dependence on foreign supply. And yet, for rice alone, we have maintained a high self-sufficiency rate in the range of 80 to 90%. In other words, we rely on the world market for most grains, while building a thick defensive wall only around rice. This is a distorted, almost deformed structure. Within this structure, farmers shout, if rice falls, the countryside collapses, while consumers complain, why is rice so expensive and why must we eat rice that costs more than California rice? On the surface, it looks like a clash between farmers and consumers, but in reality, a large part of the responsibility lies with the state, which has designed the overall structure poorly. To untangle this sharp confrontation, I propose that we revisit the rice problem through the lens of the U.S. Federal Enterprise Architecture, FEA. Rice policy is not just a matter for the Ministry of Agriculture. It is a comprehensive design problem in which 4 major domains are tightly intertwined. First, national security, which is responsible for food stockpiles and crisis response. Second, the economy and public finance, which manage farm income and budget expenditure. Third, foreign affairs and trade, which deal with FTAs and the WTO. And fourth, land, environment and local governance, which cover rural communities, ecology and regional development. Only by looking at the report card of all 4 domains at the same time, when setting the speed of liberalization, the level of tariffs and the structure of subsidies, can the government offer a convincing explanation to both farmers and consumers. The question, why must ordinary people pay such a high price for rice, must be answered not with slogans but with numbers and systemic logic. The policy direction can be summarized in 3 main lines. First, we must shift from rice-only self-sufficiency to a portfolio of grain self-sufficiency. While maintaining rice self-sufficiency at an appropriate level, we must expand domestic production of wheat, soybeans and feed grains to strengthen overall food security. We must avoid falling into the same trap as Japan, which achieves nearly 100% self-sufficiency in rice, yet sees its overall calorie-based food self-sufficiency rate stuck in the 30 to 40% range. Second, we need to transform farm support from propping up prices to direct payments based on competitiveness and public value. The state should guarantee a minimum so that prices do not fall below production costs, But beyond that, support must be linked to improvements in quality, branding, eco-friendly cultivation, water management, and landscape conservation, public services that citizens can actually experience and appreciate. Only then will consumers accept. So this is where our taxes and what we pay for rice are going. At the same time, we must build taste, quality, and price competitiveness together so that domestic rice does not fall behind California rice in direct comparison. Third, we must create institutional mechanisms that turn the confrontation between farmers and consumers from a zero-sum game into a win-win structure. For example, if a certain level of rice imports or tariff adjustments is unavoidable, part of the resulting gains could, by law, be automatically allocated to a Rural Competitiveness Enhancement Fund. This fund would invest in smart agriculture, young farmers, distribution innovation, and direct transaction platforms. Consumers would enjoy somewhat lower prices, while farmers would tangibly feel that part of those gains is being reinvested to make rural regions stronger. In addition, if we build a publicly accessible dashboard that shows at a glance world rice prices, Korea's grain self-sufficiency rate, farm household income, the share of rice in household food expenditure, and the price gap between domestic and imported rice, then politics will be forced to answer the question, why must we eat such expensive rice? Not with emotion, but with data. In short, the issue of rice market liberalization is not a simple choice between saving farmers or saving consumers. It is a comprehensive design challenge, how to simultaneously structure the relationship between the global market and domestic agriculture, between farm income and the people's dining table, between today's price and tomorrow's food security. The wise path, in my view, is to stop hiding the numbers, to make the conflicts of interest transparent, and on that basis to build a system in which each side concedes a little so that both can share in the benefits, turning the cry of "why must ordinary people eat such expensive rice?" into the calmer realization at least the structure is now gradually improving. That is the true responsibility of politics and policy. This was Lee Nam-yong, Professor TV. Thank you for watching.